He's right there. The Hall of Famer, Grant Hill, is right here, and he will have answers for Team USA's loss to Team Nigeria.
Wow, we just coming out like that off the break? We doing my man G like that?
I like this, a Tar Heel sticking up for a Blue Devil.
You know, but you're not the average Blue Devil, so
nice.
So I like you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
We will, though, get to those highlights later and talk a little bit about Team USA. Our 3D Dennis Scott is going to join us from the sidelines and behind the scenes as well. But let's start right here with the 4 teams that have, well, ever trailed 2-0 in the NBA Finals and come back to win the whole thing. That's right, just 4. Those 4. The Cavs, as you remember, did it 5 years ago. The Heat did it 10 years before that. And the Trailblazers and Celtics did it before any of us were born. Actually, Grant, you might have been born.
I was.
Will, though, the Bucks be added to this elite group, G?
Well, there's a possibility. I mean, I think if you look at that Miami team and, of course, the Cleveland team in 2016, they were led by just fantastic, iconic performances. Dwayne Wade, young in his career. LeBron James, obviously, we think of that block in Game 7 against the Warriors. You have an incredible player here in Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's really stepped up this postseason. Just played tremendous basketball. I think 10 30-point, 10 rebound games. Had a great performance there in Game 2 in Phoenix. So it can be done, but it won't be easy for these Bucks against these Suns.
No, it won't be easy, but I think there is a path where the Bucks can come back. When you look at this Bucks team, Giannis played fantastic in Game 2, but he's going to need a little bit of help from his guys. I know they're talking about who's Batman and who's Robin, but guess what? They're going to need Batman, Robin, and Alfred the Butler in this one because they're going to need Chris Middleton to step up. They're going to need Jrue Holiday to step up, and Jrue hasn't played well in these finals. They brought him in to give them a little more bump than Eric Bledsoe was giving them last year, and I think he has provided that throughout the playoffs, but it's the finals, and this is where you make your name. This is where you make your reputation, and Jrue Holiday hasn't played his best basketball or basketball that we know he's capable of yet. If he does that and Chris Middleton comes to play, I think they'll be fine. I think Giannis is going to have a super game. I think the 2 days off in between is going to give that knee a chance to rest, and he's just one of those guys that he just dominates. He's like a hybrid center in today's game. He just dominates in the paint.
Well, I'll tell you, I used to know about needing help in my Detroit years, and of course, inside stuff as well. But anyway, yeah.
Wow. I can't believe he's going to go at you like that.
My back is still sore from carrying you all those years. I don't know, though. Jrue may not talk to us after the game now that he knows you've referred to him as Alfred the Butler, but we'll do our best if, in fact, the Bucks do win this one. Giannis did finish Game 2 with 42. That's top 5 on the list of players to drop the most points in a finals loss in the last 20 years. And as promised, our 3D, Dennis Scott, is reporting from Milwaukee. Here, take it away, DZ.
As both teams prepare for Game 3, a few keys to look for early in the ball game. Does Chris Paul continue to exploit the 1-5 pick and roll as DeAndre Ayton rolls to the basket for easy buckets? I had a chance to sit down with Devin Booker for the finals edition of Shooter's Paradise, and he's super confident this team can come in and continue to play solid basketball. Now for the Bucks. There's no way this team can go down 0-3 because no team has ever come back from an 0-3 deficit. Giannis, can you continue to come downhill to set the table? But Jrue Holiday and Chris Middleton must make shots if the Bucks want to get a big win here tonight in Game 3. Kristen, back up to you.
All right, thanks, Dennis. We'll check in with you soon. Let's take a look at Jrue Holiday's shot chart. Through these first 2 games in the finals, averaging just 31% from the field, 14% from the three-point line. And Brendan, we joke about them needing Batman, Robin, and of course Alfred the Butler, but you're not wrong. These 3 need to have a good game all on the same night.
Yeah, listen, at the end of the day, it comes down to how well and how efficiently these guys can play together. I know sometimes Giannis gets caught at the top of the key, and there's a lot of times everybody just starts watching him play, but I think it needs to be more cohesive. Use Giannis to set some screens, whether it's pin downs or ball screens, dribble handoffs, spring those guys open, because what I saw G Hill in the first 2 games, DeAndre Ayton does not want to come off Giannis's body. If he sets those guys screens, I'm talking about Chris Middleton and Jrue Holiday, they will get easy shots, and we know these guys can shoot the ball. They just didn't have their best 2 games. So if they use Giannis in a screen-setting fashion, I think those guys will get easy shots, and they'll be activated early, and they're going to feed off the energy of this crowd. So look for both those guys to play better if they make that adjustment.
And I can tell you've been doing your studying, because in the Brooklyn series, they made that adjustment in Game 3. Instead of Giannis dominating the ball, getting in isolation one-on-one situations against the Nets, Coach Bud did exactly what you said. A lot of screen on the ball, get some movement. Now you put pressure on the defense, and as you said, you get Middleton and Holiday involved. But I'll say this, the Bucks have not lost a Game 3 here in the playoffs. Brooklyn, they were down 2-0, won Game 3 at home. We know Kyrie Irving got hurt in that game and in that series, which helped the Bucks. They also went to Atlanta, where it was a tied series, won in Atlanta on the road. So this is a tough, resilient group of players here who, understand and have played through adversity. And I expect them to come out, play well. And not just Giannis, not just Holiday and Middleton, but the complementary guys. It's easier at home in front of your home crowd to get going. Expect Brook Lopez, Connaughton, everyone to have a more complete effort for these Bucks to have a chance.
You've done your homework as well and have covered several of these games. Let's take a look at Chris Middleton's shot chart, because you mentioned him. It does look a little better through these first 2 games of the finals, but Grant, he has made it clear that his team needs more from him.
They do. 26 points per game in the wins, 18 points in losses in the postseason. So to me, he is the X factor. He's the guy. When he plays well, of course, the Bucks usually win. And, if you go and look at the Game 3s where they've, had their backs against the wall during the playoffs, he's averaging 31 points, 11 rebounds in the postseason this year in Game 3. So, he's an all-star. He's on the Olympic team this year. He's a guy who has been through this, didn't play well in the Brooklyn series, came out Game 3, played well. I expect him at home to have a better performance, to be effective and to be efficient for the Bucks.
I agree with Grant. I think Chris Middleton's going to step out and have a big-time game. He's one of those guys that's hard to read, because sometimes in the playoffs it's been like a roller coaster ride for him. He's had some very big highs, some very big lows, but it doesn't seem like it bothers him. He still comes out with that aggressive mentality. And with G. Hill, I agree with you. Playing at home with the adjustments that I think the coaching staff is going to make, I look for Chris Middleton to rise to the occasion, hit some big-time shots, and really give this crowd something to cheer about.
As you mentioned, Grant, they hadn't lost a Game 3, and you did cover that series against the Brooklyn Nets. It's not the first time that they've faced a 2-0 deficit. So where did you see the turning point in that series that ultimately said the Bucks are going to advance?
Chris, I covered Games 1 and 2, called those games, and the Bucks were just destroyed. I think they lost by 40-plus points in Game 2. I thought it might be a sweep. I didn't know if you could mentally and emotionally recover from a loss like that. They came back, they made some adjustments, and they were able to get going. Of course, like we said, Kyrie Irving got hurt, and certainly that may have played a role in the Bucks' success. But I say that to say they figured it out. They showed that grit, that toughness that was necessary, and came back in a must-win game, get the victory, and just gain some momentum, get back to feeling good about themselves here in this building. So a very similar scenario. Everyone's writing them off. Everyone's saying they can't get it done. Phoenix is going to win. I am impressed with the character and the toughness of that locker room. I'm not saying they'll win necessarily, but I think they'll come out and have a better performance here at home.
This is an intangibles game for me. We know there's going to be some strategic things that Milwaukee needs to do better. We know that their best players have to play well. But playing at home with that crowd, NBA Finals energy, you got to get to every loose ball. You got to make sure you don't give up offensive rebounds. You got to do the little things that don't show up on the stat sheet, like sprinting back in transition to make sure you don't give up easy layups. Make sure you give hard fouls and understand where you need to be in your defensive schemes. All that comes down to the intangibles, and I think the Bucks are going to do a better job of that in this game. They didn't do a great job of that in Game 2. I saw some times where guys weren't back, were in the wrong positions. I didn't like some of their energy. I think it's going to be better today.
Chris, and I think he's auditioning to be a head coach. He sounds like a coach. Intangibles, loose ball. I'm like, okay, Coach Haywood.
Hey, I don't want that job. That's too much like real work. I like where I'm at right now. Shout out to my bosses. I like my job.
Full of days a week are enough for Brendan. All right, we've got to take a break as the fans are starting to filter into this arena, but still to come, Sun star Devin Booker is stopping by Shooter's Paradise to give our 3D, Dennis Scott, the keys to his postseason run. And our analysts, Brendan, Grant, are going to break down the ways in which Giannis was most effective in Game 2, as we mentioned, dropping 42 in the Bucks' loss. Stay with us on NBA TV. We're live at the finals, brought to you by